significant part of what's going on is that the court is negotiating its relationship with the executive branch, that this is really a balance of powers. They're thinking very hard about the balance of powers, not just what courts do, but the relationship with the executive branch and maybe this administration in particular. And so I think that it's hard. I find it hard
to translate it. So what are they doing? What are they really doing on this model?
So okay, a few things. So one is, I think like there's an interesting question about whether or not this decision, on the one hand, you've taken some power away from the courts. You've said these, right, that lower courts can't make these universal decisions, and so that looks like maybe a weakening of the scope of judicial power. On the other hand, you've also said the Supreme Court can. The Supreme Court has exerted this vertical control over the lower courts and can make these universal decisions. So maybe that looks like consolidating power in the Supreme Court. You give the Trump administration at least a temporary win on an issue where I think everybody thinks they're going to lose on the merits, but you give them a temporary win. You consolidate some power in the Supreme Court. And during the course of doing so, they extracted some, of course, non-binding, but they extracted some promises from the executive branch, or at least from this administration, right? They had this whole conversation about, if you keep losing at the district courts on this issue, are you never going to come ask us so we never get to say? And the solicitors, no, we're going to come ask. And they also, right, assert and demand a concession that if we make these kinds of rulings, you'll listen to us. And so it looks to me like they're doing a lot of negotiating the role of the judiciary relative to an increasingly powerful executive branch. And it looks to me like their strategy is become a more unitary judicial branch as well. Take a lot of the decision-making authority and power in the judiciary and make sure it resides in the Supreme Court, where they can act strategically and deliberately, as opposed to scattered around the district courts where God knows what's going to happen. And then saying to the executive branch, look, we can do business together, but there are some things that still belong to us, and you're going to say out loud that they still belong to us. It all seems to me they're very tied up with thinking about the balance of power.